Hey everyone, this is our first team call of May. It's hard to believe that we're literally almost at the halfway point of the year. And I think that somebody said we're like 60 some odd days from Summit. So I'm getting super, super pumped, and I hope you guys are too. Tonight we have Tawnya on we have Tawnya on as our speaker. So she posted something that was like very vulnerable, real and raw about her story. And it really resonated with me because some of you know my story, some of you don't. And it's very similar to things that our family went through. And one of the biggest setbacks that I've seen in this company and in this business is that people encounter things that are just life. And then coaching goes on the back burner. And I know herself and me, and now currently with my business, I've kind of taken a step back, but I didn't quit. And a lot of people quit and they don't realize that this can be your saving grace. And maybe you don't run it as hard as you once did, or you will in the future, but it's always there. And so having these stories of how this has really impacted her life and taught her staying power is something that I think is a great message. And I hope that you get something out of it.
Well, thank you. So my name is Tawnya Landis, and I've been a coach since 7.5 years. So I actually signed up in December of 2011. I have just to give you a backstory on me, I come from a corporate background, been in corporate management for years. I was recruited out of college. I was like, go, 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 go. And then I had our first baby, just kind of back up here, 15 years ago. And I just was like, gosh, I can't keep working like this and, be the kind of mom I want to be, because I'm an aller. I was just feeling like I was never seeing him. And I became pregnant with our second child in 2008. And I thought, gosh, I got to take a step back from the corporate world. My job, the job that I was in, was super demanding. I would never see my kids. And my husband also had a demanding job. And so we decided for me to stay home. So we went down from 2 incomes to 1 income, which I'm sorry, it's hard to raise a family on 1 income these days. And so we drastically had to cut our lifestyle. Well, that was at the same time as the recession in 2008. Our daughter that was born had some health issues, and it was really hard. And I, of course, was just trying to keep up with life. My husband was working a lot to try and help out with the medical. And I mean, you can only work so many hours. You trade, dollars for hours. My husband had an amazing job prior to that, but guys, the recession, it was crappy. So I had another baby because, when you're having financial problems, apparently you just have more kids. It was a surprise to me. So it was a surprise to us, but she's an absolute blessing. And here I was, had been in corporate for several years, and I found myself home with 3 kids whom I really loved. I had no connection with other people because taking 3 kids out was a pain. It was rough. And my girls, I would try to go to the gym. My girls would not stay in the gym daycare. My oldest would. But my 2 younger kids, they would cry and I'd be called out within 5 minutes. So I would spend all this time trying to get to the gym, and be working on myself. And I literally would leave in tears. 3 out of 4 of us were in tears because, well, actually my oldest was also in tears because he actually wanted to stay in the gym daycare. But his sisters would scream so loud that they would be like, they can't stay. They need to go. And they're scaring the other children here. And so I was like, gosh, what am I going to do? This is, I need to start taking care of myself, and I need to do something. I'm going kind of crazy here. And so I was trying to do, stuff at home, but with 3 kids and no motivation and just being kind of bogged down on life. It just wasn't happening. And then I was at a dance class for one of my kids, my daughter, my 2-year-old. No, she was 3 at the time. And I met my coach, Jessie, and I didn't know her, you guys. Like, I did not know her from anyone. I was the mom sitting in the corner with Cheez-Its and a Diet Dr. Pepper, wearing yoga pants, but not doing yoga. And that was never me prior to that. That's just kind of what started happening when I got into, I was down. Like, I had no, like, outlet. I didn't have like work friends anymore. I didn't want to go back to work, but I just needed something. And she started sharing about challenge groups. And I was like, gosh, I don't know if I can do that. That sounds really interesting because you do it at home. I'm like, I don't really, I've tried doing stuff at home. It doesn't work. I don't like shakes. I don't do any of that, blah, 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 and then she's like, just try it. You can get your money back. So I signed up and I did the coach discount because I wanted to stick with it. Like, I knew that if I signed up as a coach, that I would stay with it. If I invited a couple people, you guys, I was the girl drinking Cheez-Its and soda, and I signed up as a coach. I was not at my goal. I was a hot mess. I wasn't even working out yet. I drank soda my entire first year of coaching. And I didn't lie about it. I did not lie about it. I had a nasty sugar habit. Like, I was not the making of a fitness professional. And, but I signed up to be a coach because I figured, you know what, if I get a couple of friends to do this with me, I will show up, because I know that I won't show up for myself, but I will show up for them. So that's what I did. That was so that I would stay with it. And I, of course, tried Shakeology, figured out how to make it right, and actually use it in a blender. Loved it. Couldn't imagine like not having it. I started my workout program, started feeling good. I loved the interaction in the challenge group. My first month of coaching, I made back what I spent and a little extra. And as a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids, like, that was a pretty good thing. And then I thought, you know what? Still not at my goal, still drinking soda, still eating Cheez-Its. But what if I could, make enough to pay for our groceries? So that was my goal the next month was, let's figure out how to pay for the groceries. And I didn't have a ton of time. I did not have childcare. My husband worked all the time. He had an hour and 45-minute commute each way. So he would get home at night, and I couldn't be like, hey, do you want to watch the kids while I go work? It didn't work like that. I worked in pockets of time. And I was able to cover our groceries, and we had 2 kids in diapers. I was able to cover that. And then I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could cover our mortgage? And so that was my next goal. I never intended for it to become what it became. It just was like growing over time. And I worked about 7 to 10 hours my first few years, my first year and a half as a coach. And then something shifted. My first year I made $12,000, which that's like $1,000 a month if you equal that out. And let's just insert the Beachbody income disclaimer all over this call, because I'm going to talk a lot about money, okay? And then the next year I made over $27,000 that year. But that was also, which as a stay-at-home mom working 7 to 10 hours a week, that is a huge help for our family. That middle of that year, I decided, you know what, I want to take this to the next level. I am tired of my husband working this, job and commuting, all the time. He's a really involved father, and he wanted to be there for our kids. He wanted to be at our son's soccer games. He wanted to be at the baseball games. He wanted to be at the dance recitals. And when you, are trying to do that, working a lot and, driving to your job, and he had a good job, it just can't happen like all the time. It was really tough, and it was tough on our family, and it was tough on me because I felt like here I am doing all this for all the kids, all 3 kids, and he really wanted to be there. So 2013, I got super serious, and I built our business, and I went 6 figures the following year. So 12,000 year 1, 27,500 year 2, over 100,000 year 3. And I've been in the 6 figures since then. So I'm not a one-hit wonder. I'm not like, wham, bam, get rich quick. I am like steady as they come. And I thought, you know what? I saw the opportunity in this business. I know that I could have I could have made my goal like top 10. I could have done all these things. But for me, it was freedom. My goal for my business was freedom of time and freedom of finances. And I've already traded dollars for time. So I will not work over 20 hours a week. I've never worked over, well, I may have once worked 25 hours a week, but I'm very, very diligent with what I do. And built our business. And in 2015, 2014, my husband retired from his job, and then which was awesome because the company got sold that year, and he would have lost that job. That's corporate. Like, guys, everybody thinks that like it's stable, and it really isn't. A lot of corporations, like we're out here with some of the biggest Fortune 500 companies, and I have people getting laid off all the time that I know in really good jobs. And the severance packages that these companies are giving are pretty pathetic. For example, I had a friend that worked for a company that's really well known. She worked there for 15 years, and they laid them off and gave them 2 months severance package. And that's the kind of thing that's happening. And I was like, I'm not going back to that world. I'm not dealing with that. And I actually have had offers, like, and that was what I think Mindy was talking about, is I was actually offered a 6-figure position just a month ago. It was a good 6 figures position. It wasn't like $100,000. It was a good one, but I knew what that would mean for my family. I knew what that would mean in order, for me to take that job. It's not, 40 hours. It's more than that. And my kids are now teens and tweens, and they need their mom. Like, you think they need you when they're little, they do, but they need you more when they're teens and tweens, because this part is hard. So as Minnie has shared, like, the reason she has me on this call is we've had some tough times. And I see a lot of people, when the going gets tough, they let Beachbody go. And it breaks my heart, because that's the time you should lean in. You should lean into the community. It's positive. You should lean in to your coaching business, because you guys, we're rewarded for working on ourselves. Like, what company rewards you for that? I worked for some of the greatest companies out there, and they never once said, like, work on yourself, make sure that you are working out. One of my jobs, I got my lunch from a vending machine every day, because we didn't even have time to go get lunch, and I lived off of coffee. Why do you think I was hooked on Diet Dr. Pepper? They never said, read, personal development. They would send us to conferences that would help us train more for their company, but it was never that. It wasn't invite other people to join you on your journey, help them change their lives. There wasn't the impact that we're having. As coaches, we can have such an amazing impact on other people's lives. And as a coach, so in 2015, we did our dream where we actually sold our home, and even sold my car, and we kept my husband's car at my parents'. We sold a bunch of our possessions, and we did a one-way ticket to Europe. So I was the coach traveling around with my family, working all over the world. And it was incredible. And we were loving life. I actually flew from Rome to Summit that year directly in 2015. And then reality hit. My grandmother got sick. We came back to Oregon, where we live. Then my parents, both, no joke, you guys, both on the same day ended up in the hospital for different reasons. And I'm going to try my hardest not to cry on this call. But it, stuff just kind of started happening, and it's just life. Like, life happens. It happens to all of us. And it was really hard. And I will tell you that if it wasn't for coaching, I probably would have broke under the pressure. Like, I leaned into my team. I leaned into personal development. I leaned into my workouts. I leaned into my coaching business. But the cool part is I didn't have to show up like I would have at a corporate job. I got to be with my parents in the hospital. My husband got to be there, which was really awesome, because they were in 2 different parts of the hospital, and I needed him there. When our son decided to be a teenager and really take that to the next level, which they all do, like, I was able to step back on my business and really be there for him. He had a massive snowboarding accident this last year, which resulted in a severe concussion and a seizure, and took several, weeks to recover. I was able to take him to therapy through, physical therapy 3 days a week. I was able to be with him. He couldn't watch TV. He couldn't do anything. I don't know if you've ever tried to keep a teenage boy from being active. It's really, really hard. When my marriage was we were going through a really hard time in our marriage, my husband and I were able to take time, and nobody did anything wrong. It just happens, like it happens. And we were able to invest in some of the best people in the world to help us with our marriage. We were able to invest the time, and we would not have been able to do that had we both been still work, and we wouldn't have had the means. Like, coaching has provided the means for us to be able to do things. And I know you're probably like, well, that's good for her, great. Well, guys, I built my business. I built that 6-figure income within 18 months, and I built it stable. I am not the girl that you're going to see up in the recognition. You're not going to see my name all over, in like lights. You're not going to see me like always up, being talked about or on national wake up calls or anything like that. But I'm solid. I was taught how to build. I built smart. My mentors are Keith Callahan and Bob Lucido, who Keith's book, Build to Last. Like, that's how I built my business. I built it exactly how he talks about in that book. And it's given me the life, the life that I have, a life of freedom. When I have to step back, I can step back. My team, we have some of the most amazing, people on my team, but I don't have like a huge team. I have a quality team. I look for quality people. And that's what I've been built on. So, like, for example, I was just working on the post, and if you go to my page, you'll see it. I have a doctor on my team. She's an emergency physician. And guess what? She gets to go part-time in June. Because of her coaching business. She's a mom of 2. She has a great job, makes great money, but you know what she doesn't have? Time. And this girl has so much going on. She works insane shifts. As an emergency physician, you work all over the board. You don't have like a set schedule. Even if you've been a doctor for a really long time, which she's been a doctor for a very long time, it's just the way that it works. And you're at the mercy of someone else's schedule. It's not like even as a physician, if you ask for time off, doesn't mean you get it. Like, you have to answer to someone else. And she, her daughter and her son are growing up before her eyes. And she's like, my daughter, wants me to tuck her in at night, and I'm not there, and I want to be there. And so she's able to go part-time. She wants to still be a physician, but coaching has enabled her to do that. And if she can build through that stressful of a job and having all of that going on in her, in her life, so can anyone that puts their mind to it and leans in. My most successful coaches have the most going on, and they're the busiest people I know. My other coach, that also, she retired her husband, who was an engineer, and she's also a physician. She went part-time. And she went part-time a couple years ago. She built her business through she's basically been pregnant or injured her entire journey as a coach. Like, I am not kidding you guys. And she works 7 days straight at the hospital. And you can't, like, when you're a doctor, you can't be on your phone. Like, excuse me, like, I know we're really busy. I mean, have you guys ever been in a hospital that was like, people are, the doctor's not like rushing around, like going from patient to patient? No, it's flipping crazy. So if they're able to do it, so can any of us. And I've got like numerous stories of women on my team, and they're all busy. They all have, it's just, they've got stressors going on, and that's the time these women chose to lean in. And that's what I chose to do. And coaching enabled, I can't say enough about coaching. Like, I just think it's whatever you want it to be. But for me, it gave us that freedom that we needed to be able to, when we needed to take a step back and work on things, we were still getting a paycheck. And no, I wasn't sitting around just collecting paychecks from Beachbody. I worked for those paychecks, and I also did my vitals. But, I would do like a power hour and then I would be done for the day. And I would, I still hit Success Club. I still showed up for my team. I still went to Summit. But I didn't have to stress about working, going out and working at a regular job, or, I probably would have got fired from like lack of showing up, because if there's something wrong with my child, like when he had his accident, I would have been like, screw you, like you can fire me. And I probably would have got fired. But, it took my son 8 weeks to recover. And I'm so grateful that I got to be there for him. So that is my, my story in a nutshell. It is, a lot of life has happened, but a lot of good has happened. And I am so grateful for this coach opportunity. And I just remember when it hit me, to go all in with it. And I can't imagine where our family would be had I not made that decision. And recently, my husband, which it's not completely public information, has dealt with a really serious illness. It's a very severe autoimmune. He's completely healthy. And then 2 years ago, it just woke up one day not healthy. And that can, he's in his 40s. That can happen to any of us. Health is never guaranteed, you guys. Coaching, like he has it. So my husband did retire, but my husband lasted 2 days at home and started his own company, which he absolutely loves, because he was like, being at home with 3 kids is crazy. And so he was able to do what he wanted. And I just was like, you know what? We talked about it, and I'm like, I know you love what you're doing. I know you love your clients, but right now you need to work on your health, and, you need to take a step back from your business. And he owns he does coaching, business and relationship. He's very good. Like, he's amazing. But you have to be meeting clients in order to get paid, right? Whereas Beachbody, you get residual income. And so I told him, I was like, you need to back off, your clients, and we can make up the difference. And in Beachbody, like, and he makes a good income with that. But I'm like, your health is more important, and we just need to focus. So we decided together for him to focus on, getting better. And, when you have an autoimmune, a lot of the treatments you're doing are not covered by insurance. And so, we have, thank goodness for coaching again, so that's also been like a huge blessing for us, because I can't imagine, what would have happened had he been, we were still in that position where he's the sole provider, and something happens, like, what do you do? And so I, like, coaching, even if you want to keep your full-time job, which I have coaches that do, it provides you such a safety net of, and it's residual income. Like, it's a beautiful thing. And we get paid, like I said, to work on ourselves and help other people work on themselves. So I could sit here and talk your ears off for hours, but I would love to, open it up to any questions you have for me. Anything you want to know here, feel free to ask me.
So we are actually part of the same team, which everybody is, but we somehow originate from Keith's team. So
Awesome.
I'm familiar with him. I actually just started his book yesterday. But I've seen the success with Haley and Liz Hartke and everybody. And so I'm curious, like, what my question is, like, 2 things. What is like one principle that he taught you that you applied early on? And as far as like, you know, his book was talking about, there's, you know, 3 different people: followers, leaders of followers, and leaders of leaders. So like, what did you do to attract the leaders? Since like you said, you looking at you in the beginning was not somebody destined to be in the fitness business. So like, what did you do?
Yeah. So Keith, yeah, and Keith is like, I'm not kidding. I am so thankful. So my coach is Jessica Vandenberg, who is amazing as well. And then she was a fairly new coach when she recruited me, and we didn't know what the heck we were doing. We're just like, all right, let's do this. And so basically what Keith told me, and I remember exactly the phone call I had with him in 2013, was he's like, you don't need a ton of people. You need 5. Get to 5-star, get 5 solid people, and then help them build 5 solid people. And that to me as a businesswoman just made sense. Like, you don't need a ton of people, just look for your 5 leaders and then help them do the same thing. And so that's what I've done from day one. The way that I recruit is I look at it as I'm interviewing for a job. And Keith goes through this all in his book too, but for me, coming from corporate background, I look at it as not everyone can do this. And I know that people will like get on there and be like, anyone, you know, can. Well, no, it's not true. You have to want it. And you also have to be willing to get over yourself in order to do this business. The business is not hard. I'm also sorry to swear, but I'm a no bullshit person. Like, I tell people, like, this is my expectations to be part of this team. This is what you're gonna, you know, if you really want to make this work, then, you know, you need to be coachable, teachable, and basically, you know, do what you're supposed to do. One of my I always tell people, write down the 5 characteristics of people you want on your team. And these can be different for all of us, okay? Because we're all different people. We're going to attract different people. Like, if somebody needs warm and fuzzies, they're not going to get it from me. I'm sorry. My coach, Jessie, though, she will give you all the warm and fuzzies that you want. And she's very successful. Like, she's in the Millionaires Club, everything. She's amazing. She's a warm and fuzzies girl. And she'll give you gifts. I won't. I'm like, I do gifts, but I'm not going to like dangle a shirt to tell you to hit Success Club. Like, you just hit Success Club because you're supposed to hit Success Club. And I tell people, I'm like, I don't do that to my kids. I'm not going to give them M&Ms for tying their shoes. So don't, you know, that's how I am. And so I think when people know, and Jesse's opposite, like, we laugh about it. And so you know, you just have to figure out what are your characteristics that you want for your, for people on your team. And when you have those, you go out and you look for them. You know, like, if you're going to you look at it as you're adding into your tribe. And I protect my tribe. I love them. I want them to be protected. So I'm very careful about who I bring in. So writing down like the top 5 things that you know, characteristics that you want for people on your team. So I do have a lot of doctors. I don't have a medical background. It's because I look for, like, you know, I just so happen to get into that field, like and I also have fitness professionals. I don't come from that background either. You know, I've got one of the big managers of Crunch Fitness on my team that she's like amazing. And I just, you know, I look for people that are driven, have integrity, they're self-starters. They don't need me to, like, you know, tell them, hey, did you do your power hour? Like, it's expected. And those are the types of people I like to work with. And so I look for those people. And then when they come into my team, I tell them what I expect. And the time that I did not do that, and I just started accepting whoever, and I kind of like was like, well, you know, I felt bad. That's when my team kind of took a dive for a bit. So I never go against what you want on your team. Like, I've referred to coaches to other coaches. You know, like, I've been like, you know what? I think you would do better with this person than me. Cause you know, I'm not going to baby you. I'm just not, I don't baby my kids. And so, you know, I've done that as well. So that's definitely, what I did, Keith and Bob also teach stacking, stacking your business centers, which, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with that. But the biggest thing is looking for your business partners, like look for 5. And it's important that you know what type of, you know, you're interviewing for a job. Keith talks about setting it up, you know, as like, I'm going to mentor you. And I do mentor one-on-one. I don't, you know, I work with, that's why I only work with like 5 people at a time. That's all I can handle. And then once they're ready to move on, I will add more. And that's how I built. And I went 5-star within, I was like a shaky 1-star. I went 5-star in 6 weeks once I decided to apply that. And then I went 6-star pretty fast, and it was pretty solid. I've gotten all the way up to 9-star. I've been elite 3 times. That's not my focus anymore. My focus is volume and income because I've been around for a really long time, and helping other women on my team get into the 6 figures, and also, you know, like leave their positions if that's their desire. So that's what I've done. But his book, I cannot say enough about it. Like, I probably wouldn't be here without that. And he didn't have that book back then, but that's exactly what he taught back then on it. So if you're like, oh, I wish I would have had him as a mentor, if you get the book on Audible, it's just like his phone call. I'm not kidding you. Same thing. Oh.
Thank you so much for sharing that. One thing that I just, you know, want to piggyback on what you were saying is a couple of things. Is I had somebody in my newsfeed the other day whose kid hurt himself, like a head injury. And while she was in the emergency room, apparently she, you know, called in and said she couldn't be there the next day. They gave her so much shit that she was in tears and she was pissed. And like, you know, her focus should have been her kid. And, you know, I've been doing kind of what you were saying, like looking at what is important to me. And my main core value is integrity. And I really thought about why I stay with Beachbody when shit was hard in my life. It was because there's integrity, because, you know, everything from corporate to Carl to the products to everything, they have integrity. And so that's my core value. And so, you know, the same thing goes with coaches. If you can find a common ground of your same core value or, you know, mission, they're going to stick with you no matter what. And I'll never forget what Lauren Majewski said whenever she spoke to my team, I don't know, a couple of years ago, that she said that, you know, when looking for people, it was the same thing that you said, you know, figure out what, you know, there's some common ground, that you have things in common, blah, blah, blah. But she said, you know, picture yourself. If you don't want to just take anybody, because those people will be like, you know, energy vampires. But she was like, if you couldn't see yourself spending 3 days at a retreat with that person and like 6 other people, then that's not your person. And I'll tell you, I've had people on our team that we just butted heads. And I'm like, I actually didn't do something one time for the team because I didn't want this one person to come. And I mean, because in the beginning it was, I would just take anybody because I thought anybody could do it. I wanted to help everyone, and but they may be a better fit with somebody else. So anyways, something happened to my Zoom. It's saying that I only have 4 minutes, and I was on the unlimited one, so I don't know what happened. So there's like 4 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, you probably want to message her, because I don't think we'll have enough time. But I absolutely love you sharing your story, and I hope that you guys, you know, whenever you hit those things that just happen in life, that you remember the story, and that if you are intentional with your time, that you can build a business with longevity. And my thing that I've been saying recently is like, I want to work on purpose with purpose towards my purpose, you know, and that's really being purposeful and intentional are really important. I'm realizing that when I was like that, my business was, you know, very rock solid.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, be intentional, treat it as a business. Like, you can't, you know, it'll pay you the way you treat it. It's like, that's just the facts. And I always look at, and I'm like, okay, if I were because I come from management, if I was like my manager, would I fire myself? And, you know, you have to do that because you are self-employed, you know, and you have to look at like, okay, am I doing the right things? And because I've run into a lot of times where I'm like, you know, I fire myself. Like, I'm not showing up like I should. Like, my first year of coaching, even though I did fine, I was like this. I was like a roller coaster. I want to wreck the business. Nah, I don't think I can do it now. Like, it was bad. And then once I decided to go all in, I was all in. And then life happened, and thank goodness, because like, you know, Mindy said, you can, you know, be intentional, and it doesn't take a ton of time. It just takes being very intentional and very good with your time. And as I used to, you know, as a mom of 3, I had to get really good at time management. It didn't come naturally, trust me. And my kids don't always agree with, you know, my plan for the day. So, you know, they're like, oh, I'm going to be sick today. Or, oh, I forgot something today and I'm going to call you 5 times from school. Or, you know, we're all going to be sick today. You just never know. And that's when you have to kind of, you know what you need to do in those situations just to make it happen. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to just ask me. I'm an open book. So, but thank you so much for having me tonight. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate your time. Thank
Yeah.
you. Love you guys. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys. Bye.